cost of non-cooperation both exorbitant and untenable. Though the political imbroglios, including border dispute, 3 wars and Kargil, are considered to be the major factors attributed to this poor interaction, there are several other major distractions and deterrents for India and Pakistan to consolidate on trading activities. There is a strong presence of multinational companies, and their complex linkage with the military establishment actually drives most of the trading activities in Pakistan. They have their production bases both within and outside the country, for which Pakistan has been a captive market. The pressures and influences of these non-state actors are reflected in the non-extension of most favored nation treatment to India, which is mandatory for a member of the World Trade Organizations. About 2 decades back, when we did a study on cost of non-cooperation study between India and Pakistan, we found that Pakistan, being the highest importer of tea in the world, imported over 65% of its tea from a far-off production center like Kenya. It hardly imported 1% of its tea from India, which is the world's largest producer, largest exporter and largest consumer of tea in the world. We also found Pakistan was importing this tea from Kenya at a much higher unit cost. And we calculated that Pakistan was losing almost $40 million every year by not importing tea from India. It was losing almost $40 million. When we asked the tea traders and the officials in Pakistan as to why this was happening, the standard answer was Kashmir imbroglio. That means they said that we are not importing tea from India because there is Kashmir problem. And we found that 2 very interesting facts. Firstly, the 2 major players in the market of Pakistan in tea sector was Brook Bond and Lever Brothers. And they had a huge stake in Kenyan tea gardens and used the Kenyan tea and Pakistan as a kind of captive market. So they produced there, brought tea and sold it in Pakistan. And in order to sustain this captive market, they camouflaged their trading strategy with Kashmir imbroglio. That means they continued this market with the Kashmir, saying that there is Kashmir imbroglio. Secondly, it was further proved that despite the absence of Kashmir problem between Pakistan and other major tea producing countries in the neighborhood like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, Pakistan imported negligible quantity from these countries also. Therefore, what we are saying today is the complex sources of foreign aid to Pakistan, mostly a tide aid and massive use of suppliers' credit for buying machineries, have changed the entire directions and composition of its foreign trade toward all our countries. The very nature of political systems, regimes kept the private sector highly patronized, supervised and regulated in Pakistan, therefore crushing any independent decision-making on cross-border economic interactions. All these blocks have gradually metamorphosed into negative stakeholders, implying that they all work mostly on the line of keeping India-Pakistan tensions and conflicts alive. There has been a parallel presence and institutionalization of another set of parasitic stakeholders created by the political military matrix in Pakistan. This includes smuggling syndicates, arms purchase lobbies, traders through third countries, commission agents, and of course border officials. Higher the possibility of conflict between India and Pakistan, the better and the wider are the opportunities of this parasitic minuscule. Therefore, so far we have extensively depended on military and political confidence building measures between India and Pakistan. And in the last many decades, no political and military confidence building measures have sustained. Secondly, these CBMs were addressed to only those who had serious stakeholding in perpetuating the conflicts and keeping them alive. Therefore, this makes us ponder over the vital question of designing new confidence-building measures mainly based on economic opportunities and cooperation. The economic CBMs with other neighboring countries including Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and more recently China have worked very effectively. Look at India and China. We started with 40 million trade in 1990. And despite the serious disputes on border and borderlands, the trade volume between India and China has reached over 68 billion today, from 40 million to 68 billion. There have been serious political crises these countries have faced vis-à-vis India, but they have been remarkably momentary and have sought urgent recovery, mainly because of the largest economic stakeholding on both sides of the border. Then the question is, could we have economic CVMs that ultimately lead to comprehensive economic partnership arrangements like we have with Sri Lanka? For this to happen, we must have economic channels and corridors at the very local, broader, national and larger regional levels. This also means giving considerable autonomy to the federal units like Punjab, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Jammu and Kashmir on the Indian side, and Lahore, Karachi and other provinces of Pakistan to locally integrate in terms of trade, education, health, agricultural practices, investment, tourism and other cultural and economic exchanges. This is what the Chinese have done with almost all its neighboring countries. The more local integration happens, the softer becomes the border. The borderlands become more vibrant, borders become a little secondary. Once the border becomes softer, orthodox military-centric treatment of borders actually transform into gallery of opportunities, which in turn could lead to resolutions of many political problems. A soft border creates its own interest groups, pressure agencies, and an array of institutions that promote multiple cooperations and development ventures. This is what happened after we reopened the Nathula trade route in Sikkim to Tibet Autonomous Region of China after 44 years in 2006. Today the route is being used for Kriyas Manjarwal pilgrimage yatra. When we in order to go to China and Central Asia in 1950s, in 1920s, 1910s, right? Traders from Amritsar, traders from Madras, traders from Mumbai and from Calcutta used to go to a place known as Kalimpong in Darjeeling, and they used to climb up to through Nathula, then go to Tibet and then to Central Asia. That used to be such a vibrant route. In 1962, there was a war between India and China, and suddenly Government of India and the Government of China on that side decided to close down that route just at a particular point of time. After about 40 years, we started saying that no, this route has to be reopened because this route carries everything, right from trade to intellectual heritage to cultural heritage to Silk Route politics to everything, pilgrimage, it has to be reopened. And when that time I happened to be in the government of Sikkim as Chief Economic Advisor. That time when we said this route has to be reopened, everybody said that no, this cannot be opened because this route, if you open it, the Chinese will come from that side, Tibetans will come from that side, and Indian security will be in danger, so we took off. So the border was a very hard border. At that particular point of time, I remember whenever we used to go to Nathula, the Chinese, the People's Liberation Army on that side, and the Indian Army on the other side, they used to have an eyeball-to-eyeball contact with aiming their guns at each other. And they would not close their eyes also, precisely because the moment they closed their eyes, they would shoot at each other. That used to be the nature of the border. It used to be absolutely hard. There was no exchange, no smiles on the faces of the armies. And in 2005-06, 2003, our Prime Minister went to China, proposed that this trade route should be reopened, signed an agreement. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. They came back and told us that, okay, let's work towards reopening this trade route, this historic trade route. I was asked to prepare a report about how to go about reopening this. Then we said, look how Chinese have done with Russians, how Chinese have done with Vietnamese or Koreans, or even to a large extent in Japanese, and let's see in what way we have gained. And so we wrote everything down in the report, and in 2006, 4-5, we went extensive tours to Tibet, did market survey, came back and wrote everything in the report. and we submitted the report, and somehow the government of India and China decided to reopen this trade route after 44 years in 2006. And today the border is so soft. Yesterday the border was such a hard border. I told you they used to have eyeball to eyeball contact. Today the border is so soft. The Chinese and the Indian soldiers, they play volleyball in the border today, right? The Chinese from that side give watches to the Indian soldiers as gifts, because watches are sold in kilograms in China, right? And what do the Indian soldiers give? Indian soldiers give, from that side it is ghadi, and from this side, Indian side, give what Chinese like most is bidi, Indian bidi. So it is a very beautiful exchange of ghadi and bidi, right? Yesterday they were in a position not to exchange anything. Today they exchange ghadi and bidi. So it's a soft border. And in that report, I very clearly remember that we should reopen this trade route for access to Kailash Mansarovar. And last time, when the Chinese president was here, we decided that the first pilgrims from the Indian side to the Kailash Mansarovar would be going even through Sikkim route, and I'm told that the Prime Minister himself would be using this route. That could be done. And this is where the hope lies between India and Pakistan, that make our borders as soft as possible. Therefore, what we are saying is, make these borders as opportunities rather than national security threats. And let's think about what you now call smart borders. In the realization of the dream of South Asian Economic Union and South Asian Community, India is the strategic key actor, and 17 out of 29 states in India have international borders. If India's burgeoning economic growth is to be shared by its South Asian partners, it would happen primarily through borders and cross-border linkages. Borders are the most critical channels of social, economic, environmental, cultural, and technology exchanges in the regions. Borders are becoming a major source of non-traditional security threats also. Therefore, it is very crucial to change the concept of border and borderlands from a security-centric perspective to a hub of socio-economic opportunities. India and Pakistan can take the lead in unfolding these newer potentials of South Asian borders by launching a smart border plan. And this plan would essentially comprise of 1, a seamless border for cross-border low-risk exchanges, including tourism, health and educational amenities, trade and commerce, energy exchange and transport and communication. B, a secure natural resources area to be covered by regional convention and mutual harmonization of each other's regulatory regions. C, a common space like an economic corridor between India and Pakistan. And D, comprehensive connectivity for all purposes. This is what we are thinking about a smart border. Then the second critical issue, what we are thinking today, and we have been strongly advocating today in the university system, and yesterday I was telling Professor Tiwana that he has a major role in this respect, is to really push the energy security debate between India and Pakistan. A critical area where India and Pakistan are expected to work closely in future is energy security. By now, the deeper advantages emanating from cross-border exchanges of energy are very well established, as could be seen in many other regional groupings like the Nord Pool in Northern Europe that encompasses Norway, Sweden, Finland and Denmark, South African Power Pool, SAP encompassing South Africa, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, Malawi, Zimbabwe and Zambia is another example. It will act as the single most effective confidence building measure through the participation of multiple stakeholders and substantially promote market integration in energy related goods and services. The moment we talk about energy from the Pakistani side and from the Indian side, we think that there are 6 reinforcing factors that are bound to promote energy exchanges between India and Pakistan in the course of next few years. First is, there's a huge power crisis in Pakistan today. Long hours of load shedding, right? And Pakistani consumers are now protesting against the government that you provide the electricity, otherwise our education system, health system, agricultural systems will fail. is a tremendous hue and cry in Pakistan today. At the same time, there has been, besides this public pressure, people are willing to pay for the electricity. Give us quality electricity, we are willing to pay. Secondly, we find that there are increasing realizations among the leadership of South Asian countries to expedite the process of energy exchange as indicated by declarations in various SAARC summits. It started with the Islamabad declarations of 2004, where the concept of energy ring was first discussed. All these culminated in the signing of the SAARC Framework Agreement for Energy Cooperation in the 18th SAARC Summit held in Kathmandu in November 2014. Thirdly, there are various levels of sensitizations and preparations of energy cooperations. This includes the frequent and consistent exchanges of knowledge and experimentations among technical and professional organizations, independent power producers, international agencies. Fourthly, large number of studies have been conducted and policy suggestions by several academic professional organizations have been brought forward. We have done extensive studies in GNU saying about how Bangladesh, how Nepal, how Pakistan, how Sri Lanka would gain if you have some kind of energy exchanges. Fifthly, massive energy sector reforms have taken place in both these countries. And finally, a huge and significant infrastructure have been developed in the energy sector in both these countries. If you see in Pakistan, from the north towards the south, you have the transmission lines, you have the gas pipelines. In India also, you have massive high voltage direct transmission lines across India, across Punjab, you can find that. Therefore, among the gamut of energy cooperations between India and Pakistan, the most critical is electricity exchange. And what is this electricity exchange? We can do electricity exchange with Pakistan in three different modes. One is a bilateral power trade, that means between India and Pakistan we do the power trade. Secondly, a pool-based exchange, that means we pool all the powers from all the South Asian countries, host them in a city like Delhi or a state like Punjab, border state like Punjab, then send it across to Afghanistan, to Sri Lanka, to Bangladesh, to Pakistan. And third is a wheeling facility, also known as a wheeling facility. That means Pakistan will buy electricity from Nepal and India will give a wheeling facility. India will the transmission line to take it to Pakistan. Therefore, what we are saying is any of these three modes can be adopted by any of the South Asian, any of the countries between India and Pakistan. What we are also saying is the countries like in Central Asia and Iran have abundant natural resources. Opportunities exist for Pakistan to import electricity from Central Asia, Iran via Afghanistan, and also provide electricity transit to India and other SAARC countries. For example, under a new regional initiative, the governments of Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan have entered into MOU for overall development of a project known as CASAREN, Central Asia, South Asia Regional Energy Market. And I think if the CASA projects happen, then some of the electricity grids to India from Pakistan will pass through even a border states like Punjab and Rajasthan and to a large extent even Gujarat. India proposed power import from Pakistan in 1998. It was a very impressive step. The Pakistan offered sale of surplus power to India. That time Pakistan had surplus power. There had been an intensive negotiations between Power Grid Corporation of India and Water and Power Development Authority of Pakistan. The agreement was discussed in 1999, but because of the rates, tariff rates, India did not really import power from Pakistan. However, it adequately indicated that there is a very high potential and promise for energy exchanges between India and Pakistan. When we were doing this study between India and Pakistan, in Amritsar, we went to a household saying that the old gentleman was there, he was a very well-known engineer. So we went to him and said, "Sir, what do you think about importing power from India or sending power to India from Amritsar or between Amritsar and Lahore?" And this gentleman goes inside that house and says, gentlemen, wait, I will show you a document. And he showed us a document of 1965. And till 1965, February or March, the Lahore electricity consumers used to get their electricity bill from Amritsar. That used to be the integration between electricity exchange between Amritsar and Lahore in the integrated. So the difficulty today is we were an integrated region before 1947 and we disintegrated, right? And today we would like to reintegrate. Naturally the process is a very, very difficult process. Nowhere in the world this kind of situation has arisen where there is some kind of a totally coherently integrated region, then it is disintegrated and they try to reintegrate. That kind of situation had never arisen. That's why we think that it is a very, very difficult process. Therefore,